What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to be sharing with you guys the deck that I'll probably be playing on ladder for the rest of this season as my daily driver deck for all of my ranked duels. Since Konami decided they didn't really want to update our format with new cards or a ban list or anything for Season 3, I think that Tribrigade Zoodiac will continue to be just the best deck for you if you want to get in and out of your ranked duels quickly, collect your 155 gems every day from playing the game, and overall it's a relatively simple deck to pilot in terms of what you want to do every turn. I shared a combo video on this channel that it basically is the only play that I do in this deck. Sometimes you do some more extension with cards like Bear Brum, but for the most part it's Tribrigade. You just want enough good cards to cover all of your matchups. Jumping into the deck, we have our Tribrigade cards starting off. 3 copies of Nerval, 2 copies of Chaos, 3 copies of Kit, and 3 copies of Fractal. So Nerval, when it's dumped to grave, you add any Tribrigade card from your deck to your hand. It's going to be one of your main consistency cards. Chaos, your one extender in the deck, is only good if you see another Beast Warrior in your hand, so you only play 2 because the rest of the cards kind of do stuff on their own. Kit, it's going to be your normal summon every single turn for the most part. When this card is sent to the graveyard, it dumps a Tribrigade card, so that's going to be how you get Nerval into the graveyard a lot of the time, or if you just need more names. And Fractal, this is just the best card in your deck. 1 card starter, you dump your Nerval, you add your Kit, you banish 2, you summon Bear Brum, you link the Kit and the Bear Brum into Rugal. Kit triggers its effect, sending the 4th Beast Warrior. Boom, combo's done. You add Revolt, you pass to your opponent, and then you float on your opponent's turn really hard. Revolt's pretty hard to play around, except if your opponent sees exactly Ghost Bell, but no one's playing that card on the ladder because Ash, Max C are mandatory inclusions on the Master Duel ladder, so you don't really got to worry about that too much. Yeah, that's basically it. We play 3 copies of Tenki for consistency to see Fractal, because Fractal is the best card in this deck. Any hand where you see Fractal is playable. Aside from that, this is kind of just a bunch of random good cards for the ladder. We have our Gammas because we want our Fractal or our Tenki to resolve. If they Ash our Tenki, it feels really bad. If they Ash our Fractal, it feels really bad. There's not anything in the extra deck to actually go into with this card. When I Gamma my opponent on my Fractal dump, or on my Nerval search or something like that, I don't even make anything with it. I just use it to force my playthrough. So that's why it's in here. And it's the same reasoning for 2 copies of Called by the Grave. You may not have this card because it's an ultra rare. I crafted this. I think it should say something that I crafted this card before triple Max C. Max C is great, but it doesn't win you the game all the time. It's really good. I still don't think it's a healthy card for the game. However, Called by the Grave prevents my opponent from Max C-ing me, which I think is a lot more impactful a lot of the time, especially in the back row heavy matchups where Max C can be dead. Against Eldritch, Called by the Grave is going to be live for Golden Lord. And then the last hand traps are the 1 copy of one copy of Max C and the 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Oh, I'm sorry, I completely skipped over the Zoodiac stuff. So in this deck, we also play a small Zoodiac engine. Really, you can play what you feel. I'm playing 1 Thoroughblade, 1 Ram, 1 Whip, because if you open all 3 of them together, you can do the Draco Future Zeus play, but you can't do that in this deck. Basically, they're Zeus fodder, and they're Tribrigade names. You can occasionally make your card get big with Whiptail, and Whiptail is important removal sometimes, but these could be any 3 Zoodiacs and it's probably okay. And then the last card in the last random monster in the deck is the 1 copy of Godarla. It's just an additional out to cards like Herald or Rongamede in the main deck. Oh no, you can't. Oh, I'm sorry. You cannot summon under Rongo. So that's not what that's in here for. Mostly just Herald. It's essentially a 4th copy of Forbidden Droplet because we want to consistently be able to out Herald and play the game against Drytron. Because if you can crack their first board and set up some mediocre stuff, they can hit you on the crackback, but at least you've broken their initial board and then you can play it from there. A lot of Drytron ladder players misplay anyways. I think a lot of people aren't really, the people who are on ladder who are playing it are not the best players. because I think the best players tend to go towards decks that require a lot less actions to set up like crazy boards. Like Drytron will be really good in a tournament, and you might find Drytron players in tournament play a lot better than they are on the ladder, because typically I would assume that better players are going to be playing them during tournaments, for one, and then for two, they're people who want to do their daily grinding on ladder won't pick a deck like Drytron. They'll pick a deck like Tribrigade. But even if you do run into Drytron, you need a card like Forbidden Droplets to out their stuff. Droplets gets a ton of utility across every single matchup, and then randomly cuts your opponent's stuff in half. It does enough. If you don't have this card, I think it's also worth maybe not crafting them. I actually pulled for these, but it also cost me like $100 something to pull my full playset. So it's up to you on how you want to approach it, but I think if you are thinking about a card that you should be working towards, Droplet is definitely high on that list. And then we have our 1 copy of Harpy's Feather Duster, and 1 copy of Monster Reborn, and 1 copy of Lightning Storm. So just some power 1-ofs in the deck. Lightning Storm for back row decks, Duster for back row decks. Lightning Storm randomly gets double utility. Monster Reborn, just cause I like Monster Reborn. It's another extender in this deck, which is cool, which sometimes you do need. Yeah, that's basically it. 3 copies of Pot of Desires for consistency, 2 copies of Twin Twister because I hate losing to Eldritch. Absolutely hate it. I hate losing to Skill Drain, even though you can kind of play around Skill Drain with Access Code Talker and Droplets to a certain degree. And then Revolt also lets you kind of play around Skill Drain because it puts a big body on the board and then it floats you into more stuff. It's okay. And then lastly, the last 2 cards in the main deck, 2 copies of Tribrigade Revolt. Honestly, I think this deck list is super standard. I'm pretty sure that I based this off of some Japanese list that I had seen at some point. I was like, oh, I saw them playing Gammas, so I played Gammas, and then as I started playing, I was like, oh, yep, that has good synergy. Yeah, Gamma's a good card. Very impactful interruption, very generically impactful interruption. And then if you don't have a use for it, you can tuck it off of Farajet or tuck it off of Bear Brum. So it's not even like that bad if you are able to get to that point and you have the Gamma in hand, because you can just put it back and then get a different card to your hand. Yeah, overall, the main deck I think is pretty solid. There's definitely some wiggle room here. Like the main core of the deck are these cards. I would continue playing 3 copies of Pot of Desires while we have access to it, just because it's such a good consistency card for this deck. It's just like any other deck. I do like playing 3 Zoo names because it means that I get to see them more frequently, but you could really shave this down to 2 potentially as well. You just want to have some amount of Zoo cards in your deck so that you have targets for Tenki in the situations where you need to make the Zeus play. But yeah, as you can see, Tribrigade is so good because it does so much with like a single card. As you can see, this is just the engine cards we play in the deck. We have 18 flex spots. Half of our deck is whatever the heck we want to play. If you want to play another like Beast Warrior engine, you can definitely do that. If you want to just shove a bunch of good stuff into the deck, you can as well. And I think just the good stuff version has shown itself again and again on ladder to be, I think, one of the best decks. The only thing about it is I noticeably don't run into a ton of Tribrigade on ladder. I'm not exactly sure why. Maybe people are bored of this deck. It really could just be that. But yeah, I think that's pretty solid for the main deck. Extra deck, we're playing 5 Zoo names because I'm greedy and I want to make a 6 material Zeus, and some decks lose to 6 material Zeus, especially on the ladder. As a daily deck, I really only want to win 2 out of 3 games, so playing a little greedier never has really punished me in that regard. My goal isn't to go like 15-0. My goal is to win 2 out of 3, so I get the maximum rewards every single day. That being said, it's not infrequent to go like whole weeks without dropping a game just because people on the ladder will misplay and you can punish them with very simple plays. Revolt's just a generically powerful card. 1 copy of Divine Arsenal AA Zeus because it's one of the best cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! Wipes the board 3 times with your Zoo cards, which is crazy. 1 copy of Ancient Warrior Oath Double Dragon Lord. You really don't need this card. It's good. There's certain combos you can do with it. It comes up for me that this is basically another out to like a card on the field that you might have issues with. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily out skill drain per se. Oh, it does out skill drain. It's another out to skill drain like access code talker is, because you can like banish 2 droplets, one of your own cards, and then to force the Ancient Warrior onto the field, and then you can Ancient Warrior tribute itself to bounce like the skill drain. So in that regard, it gives you more ways to play around skill drain, which is nice. You don't need to do any like convoluted combos in this deck. I think the combo I showed off on the channel, if any of you have seen it, that's the combo line I go for every single time. I don't really personally know the extensive combo lines with this deck, and I don't think you need to be successful with this deck on ladder. I think sometimes you get too many options, or this is my philosophy on it anyways. Sometimes you end up with too many options in your hand, and it's better just to say, no, I'm going to do my simple play. I'm going to keep these other combo pieces that I could have used this turn in my hand for next turn. If my board gets broken, I should be okay, because my 2 cards on the field should float me into like 4 more cards. It's really hard for your opponent to play around Revolt, like I said, unless they specifically draw Bell. DD Crow doesn't play around this. Yeah, there's not a lot that really plays around this card very effectively, outside of like a hard negate for it. That being said, we got our Farajet, our Bearbrum, our Havel's Grieve, the Desperate Doom Eagle, 1 copy of Tribrigade, Rugal, the Silver Sheller. We have Appaloosa, Bow of the Goddess. Again, there are combo lines with this deck where you get to go into like Appaloosa plus Ancient Warrior on the first turn of the first turn, but I don't like it as much because it means that you don't have the Rugal on field. And you used a bunch of cards out of your hand to do it. I guess the only time where it might be worth to go for a play line like that is if you have just a bunch of Tribrigades and Zoodiac cards in hand and not a lot of your other interruption cards. Maybe in that case it'd be better. But in most cases I find myself literally just always going for Rugal. And then on the turn 2 and onwards, I'll go for like Farajet, and then I'll use the effect of Farajet to summon additional cards, and then Bearbrum to bring back cards from the banished pile. 1 copy of Access Code, mandatory. You have to play this card. Everyone should have this card at this point. If you don't, craft it. It's I would say pretty mandatory for this deck because of the lethal play lines with Shrig and Access Code. It's unbelievable the amount of games that you just win with going, look at hand, I don't have a lot going on, normal summon a card, banish 3, make to summon a link 3, make Access Code, and then just offer the handshake. It's absurd. Definitely play this card. 2 copies of Shrig. Yeah, just play 2. It's a good card. Sometimes you link off the first one to like search a card if you need to continue to extend. Like you take a card, you summon a card, banish 4, summon Shrig, banish a card on their field, link 2 into Farajet or Bearbrum. The Shrig effect will trigger to float you into, you go into the Farajet, right? And the Shrig effect will trigger to search you any Tribrigade in your deck. You can summon it then, and then if you still have materials left in grave, you get to like banish 3 for access, and then banish 3, summon a link, go into Access Code, and then yeah, it's just alternate ways to get to lethal if you need to like play through stuff first on your opponent's field. Comes up rarely, but it does come up. Most of the time it doesn't. Like I said, I want to say 80%, 90% of my games are I make Rugal, I pass, or I make Rugal, even going second, I make Rugal, and then I set the Revolt into their board that I've maybe broken with like droplets plus something else, and then on their turn I Revolt them to close the game out. The deck has got a very, very simple flow that it goes through. And that's basically it for the extra deck. Like I said, for the mandatory cards, actually, we'll do the same for the extra deck here. What I feel is mandatory in this deck. We have our 22 main deck cards. Pot of Desires I like as the draw spell in this deck because we have so many multiples. Not very often that you banish a lot of stuff on Desires. The times where it really hurts is when you banish like double Nervall. But it doesn't happen that frequently. A lot of the time it's just like one Nervall. For the extra deck, I guess you could say that Dryden isn't mandatory, but the ability to go into like a pop is also very nice to have. So I'll leave it in here as mandatory. But I don't think you need this, and I don't think you need this. So really, this is kind of like the core of the deck, these 22 main deck monsters. And then you can also, you can actually cut we'll cut the Hammer Kong from the extra deck too, because a lot of builds only play the 4 Zoo and the 1 Zeus. This is like the core of the deck. If you're missing some cards, like for example, you have all of the main deck cards, but you don't have like the Trident, for example, because you don't want to play the Zoo stuff. You could, instead of playing Thoroughblade, you really could just play like more copies of Ram, cut the Trident. You need the Zeus. You should have Zeus. And then honestly play like another copy of Rugal, like another copy of Farrajet, because if you're pulling from this set, you might have it. Another copy of Bearbrum, why not? And then like you can kind of start here and then build out your deck. Torrential Tribute is very good in this deck as well. There are some really good interactions between Zeus, Torrential Tribute, and Revolt. So what you can actually do is that when your opponent summons a card, right, that in the Torrential window is activated, you can Chainlink 1, activate Revolt, and then Chainlink 2, activate Torrential Tribute. So the Torrential Tribute will resolve, destroying all cards your opponent controls, and then on Chainlink 1, the Revolt will resolve, summoning back all of your 4, and then summoning your Shrig, which is really good because it means that you can like Torrential your opponent, and then also crack back with the Revolt. This interacts really nicely with Zeus in this regard because you can go Chainlink 1 Revolt, Chainlink 2 Zeus, right? So your Zeus resolves, sending all cards your opponent controls to the graveyard, but you still get to resolve the Revolt effect. So you'll get the big body on the board. You'll potentially, you won't get the banish will be pretty irrelevant at that point in time, but you'll get the big body, like the Shrig maybe for next turn, and then also you'll get to like float into your other stuff. Yeah, you can float into your stuff with Nerval off of the Revolt. Yeah, overall, I think this deck is pretty straightforward to play. I'll link the combo that I'm talking about in the description of this video. I think it's pretty straightforward to follow. It's literally send Fractal, Fractal effect discard itself, send Nerval, Nerval effect, add Kit, normal Kit, Kit effect, banish 2, summon Bearbrum, link Bearbrum and Kit into Rugal, and then the Bearbrum will activate as Chainlink 1, and then Kit as Chainlink 2, so you can potentially block like a Skullmeister or something, so that way you guarantee your search for Revolt. Random, your opponent you will be able to feel if your opponent has something like that. They probably don't by the time you're at this point in your combo. Otherwise, they would have Skullmeistered your Nerval, or they would have, DD Crowed one of your cards when you normaled Kit, right? Like they wouldn't wait for you to be able to use all of your effects first, unless they're like, they don't really know what you're doing and they're kind of bad. Yeah, and then on your opponent's turn, you make the Shrig, you banish 1. The Shrig itself will float on that turn because you won't have anything banished, but the Nerval you send back to the graveyard will add you another card for next turn, and that's kind of how it goes. All of your cards generate like huge bodies, free removal, and then free pluses for the next turn. Little disappointed Konami didn't touch up the format. I was hoping something would change and I could bring you all an updated version of Tribrigade for the new format, but we're in the new format and it's the same deck. Not this one. Let me discard the changes in return. But it's the same deck that I've been basically playing in Master Duel since I think day 2 or 3. Double Shrig was like the first thing that I got in this game. I think I built a Pure Try as literally the first deck I had in Master Duel. And then I committed to the Zoo cards later on. But yeah, that being said, let me know what you guys are playing for this new season. A little bit of a bummer that we're not getting anything new, but I'm gonna try to find some new fun stuff to play. Maybe we'll do some like more trolley decks this season. Had a lot of fun with Time Lords during the Xyz Festival event. That was a lot of fun. Probably will wheel that deck back out once Synchros come around, if we get a Synchro event coming up, because I really don't have a Synchro deck to play. That being said, hope you all have enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.